Always a pleasure to have on our next guest is our guy Ross Jackson. Of course, does a fantastic job writing for LouisianaSports.net. Is the host of Locked On Saints as well. Ross, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Saints coming off a victory. I mean, what a great time to hop on the show, go on the road, take down Tampa Bay. Hey, it was gritty over pretty in that game down there. The weather was bad. They found a way. So I don't know that every Saints fan wants them to win, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and look, I think the Saints, I mean, it's obvious the Saints want to win. Every NFL team wants to go out there and win. All these players want to go out there and win. And you want to establish a winning culture. You want to have a culture that, players in free agency want to be a part of and want to come and be a part of the next era of this team and all those other things. I think we tend to skip free agency to start talking about the draft super early and talking about draft position and all these other things. But really, there's an entire player acquisition process that precedes that by about a month. And so, I think that, down this last stretch, they've got some winnable games. Beating a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gives them a little bit of confidence. Like you said, it was gritty over pretty. There was perfection in the imperfection of the game. It was good to see them manage some adversity and come out with a win and not just win because things were perfect. And so now you have an opportunity with the last 4 games of the season to build on that and then make yourself a desirable destination potentially for some free agents that want to be a part of what you're building.
Yeah, you talk about that because it's an interesting point because you do get so focused and wrapped up in the draft process, but the free agency has the opportunity to make a larger impact on your team in the immediate needs as well. And so I look at the Saints and I'm like, man, people like Demario Davis, Alvin Kamara, they have been so loyal. Cam Jordan, they've been so loyal for so long. There's got to be some juice in New Orleans around that Saints. There has to be something around that. So if you got those leaders, they can talk to other people around the league. If you have some sort of winning, but what is it about the Saints culture, even in the last couple of years of losing, really draws these veterans, at least at the ones that are continuously there, that have been there for a long, they're staples of the team. What makes them so loyal to this team for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the fact that the team has been loyal to them, right? We give the Saints a lot of, flack for their salary cap management and constantly restructuring these players and kicking cans down the road and all those other things. But that's also them recommitting to these players over and over again, and that's not lost on what the players are doing. And now you're seeing players not just those veteran players that are choosing to stick around. They're actively taking pay cuts and adjusting their contract to stay here in New Orleans. And so clearly something in that realm is working well for what New Orleans is doing. And other players from outside of the organization do take notice to that. I mean, you talk to players in the locker room who could just as easily say, I just needed an opportunity, found an opportunity, landed here, or it's a great organization, blah, blah, blah. But you hear players talk about how they saw the way the loyalty of the team, the loyalty of the players to the team and things like that. And look, there's no mystery that for the Saints, loyalty sometimes clouds their judgment, right? Sometimes they make sentimental decisions over business decisions, things like that. We've seen all of that. But there is something to the sort of player to team commitment and organization to player commitment that we have seen over the course of the past little bit. The culture changes, right? Because you went from the Sean Payton era to the Dennis Allen era to the briefly realized Darren Rizzi era. Now you're in the Kellen Moore era. So the culture is going to shift. But what Kellen Moore is building as a player-first culture, along with some of the things that we've already highlighted, I think that those two things create a little bit of a combination where if you can show that results or affects the results on the field in terms of generating wins, that's going to be something that players are going to want to be a part of, especially as the Saints get to the point to where they have some of that salary cap option to be able to start to spend and they have the space available, things like that, as that starts to open up over the course of the next couple of years.
So, Ross, one of the things we talked about yesterday with the Saints, even in their failures, it hasn't been really a quarterback issue. There was times that I thought Spencer played well enough, certainly to win games. I think Tyler Shucks played well enough. I mean, he went and, it was with his legs that he won the last game. So with that being said, knowing where they're probably going to pick in the draft, how likely is it that they go to another position of need, considering they have so many needs on this team and the quarterback hasn't really been the issue?
Yeah, I would say that as long as there's not some type of cataclysmic meltdown over the course of the next 4 games, that the Saints are probably not too worried about addressing quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft, and maybe not even addressing it at all in the draft. Maybe now is the time to go and get a veteran quarterback to kind of help your young quarterback room and what version of it exists in 2026. And maybe they go that route in 2026 instead, and then the draft becomes focused on building around the quarterback and supplementing what you weren't able to bring in through free agency. If you can get players that have NFL experience already, you know how it is that how they fit into an NFL system, perhaps players that have worked with Brandon Staley or Kellen Moore in the past that are just becoming available, you go and do that because there's less of kind of a question mark around it. Can that guy translate in the NFL where there's X number of years in the league that already proved that? And then you go into the draft and you supplement through that. So I think that the idea of the draft is about finding playmakers and finding guys that are going to be able to supplement your depth, help you out on special teams, which also needs a little bit of a rebuild as well, although it has improved over the course of the year. And then just giving you the opportunity to build around your quarterback, which might mean getting weapons on offense, but also could mean getting impact players on defense. I think playmakers has to be a big kind of emphasis this offseason, and you can do that through both of those player acquisition paths.
Speaking of acquisition of players through any means necessarily, let's talk about the diamond in the rough that we've had on the roster for a couple of months now. Devon Vele really starting to show out. I mean, it was like this trade was getting crushed, right, every week because he wasn't playing. He wasn't getting any catches, attempts, and but now he's really kind of showed out. And I don't know if it just took a while to get him implemented or the coaches to get familiar with him or whatever it was, but how do you think he's kind of progressed throughout the year, and how do you feel about that trade sitting here today?
Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't take a lot of production to match the production of your typical fourth-round wide receiver, right? And that's the pick they traded for. They traded a fourth and a seventh. So maybe you could make the argument of a third-round pick. You remember a former third-round pick here in New Orleans, Traquan Smith, that had a bit of ups and downs and everything, but certainly a lot more downs than ups here in the city. And so I think you look at what Devon Vele has done. Certainly, it took way too long for the Saints to kind of get him as involved. Yes, they got him out on the field after the Rashid Shaheed trade, but they didn't really start targeting him as a typical down in, down out option. But maybe over the course of the past couple of weeks, and in particular, as the Saints have developed their crossing routes a bit more, which is kind of a Kellen Moore special, and attack in the middle of the field, Bailey's been a big part of that. But then beyond that, he was also the guy that sealed the block on the outside that allowed Tyler Shucks to run for a touchdown 34 yards out, the Saints' first 30-plus yard run of the season. So you can see the impact from multiple spaces coming from a guy like Devon Vele, and that is a big-time piece of the puzzle for what the Saints had lacked before Vele this season. They didn't have a lot of guys out there that, they could be blockers, they could be running routes, and just creating that little bit of hesitation or that little bit of confusion or thinking over on the defensive side. And so now they're getting to take advantage of that. So I think he's come along great. I think that it took a little bit longer than necessary, but I don't fully put that on him individually. And then as for the trade, I think the trade looks better and better and better every week. I think, too, you consider that they also recouped some of that draft capital with getting or with the trade of Rashid Shaheed, who's got like 4 catches in Seattle right now. And then they also are still in line because of good roster management for a compensatory selection for the Paulson Adebo signing with the New York Giants last offseason. They're in a really good place in terms of not only getting the player that they wanted with that 4th and 7th round pick, but kind of recouping that draft capital as well.
Ross, one of the things we haven't talked a lot about, because a lot of the focus has been on the offense, because you're wondering what it's going to look like at quarterback, and the offensive line's been so bad this year, is the job that Brandon Staley's actually done with this defense. And, when you look at yards per game, I think they're like 12th right now in the NFL, and they're doing a really nice job, and they've had their injuries certainly, but it feels like Brandon Staley's actually done a really nice job taking over for, Dennis Allen, who's a defensive-minded head coach there. What do you make of the job that Staley's done?
Yeah, it's been outstanding. I mean, he has taken this team from places like where they were ranking in, the 30, 31, 32 area, 25 and below, and then brought them up to being a top 10 defense in some of those same metrics. Now, this team still struggles as a rushing defense. That's worth mentioning. That'll obviously be a big part of the emphasis and focus over the course of the offseason. But if you look at kind of once Brandon Staley got Chase Young back in the lineup, they've been top 10 in total defense. They're 9th in yards per carry, even though they're allowing a lot of rushing yards. They're not allowing it on a per carry basis as much. There's been a couple of breakaway situations there, but outside of that, it's been tough. They've been they're 6th right now in passing defense as well over the course of that stretch. 9th in sacks per drop back, 8th when it comes to third down percentage, a top 5 team in red zone defense since Chase Young has been back as well. So you can kind of get a full glimpse of what it is that Staley is able to do with a full complement of his players. And now he goes into an offseason with the opportunity to add to it. And so I think and by the way, them being ranked as a top, 10, near top 5 passing defense doesn't have a lot to do with the fact that they've struggled as a run defense. They have the second most passing attempts against in the NFL as a defense. So it's not because teams aren't passing that they're not allowing yards. They're just simply doing a good job. And so I think that this is a big area where New Orleans saw a massive improvement. Still a lot of improvements to make, obviously, when it comes to rushing defense, and then continuing to add some playmakers over to that defensive side of the ball. But I think the job that Brandon Staley has done has been excellent. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's able to do with an offseason to acquire players that he wants as well, to add to that defense. Now he's had a year to kind of look at that and see what's missing. And then after that, I mean, if he keeps doing this, he might be looking at a second head coaching opportunity somewhere. So the Saints should enjoy that, what they can get from Brandon Staley while they can get it.
Oh yeah, Ross, I know you watch a lot of film, so you've seen the Saints play. You've also seen, in doing so, you've seen a lot. You've seen all the other teams play. Who is the best team in the NFC South?
Oh man, in the NFC South, is there a such thing as the best team in the NFC South?
I mean, this is a chalk answer like a month ago, but I don't think it is. Anymore.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge Carolina's surge as of late, right? Like they're a team that looks a lot more cohesive on tape than the Bucs do. The Bucs are kind of in that area right now to where if they can get you into a shootout, they can win those situations. But the drops by Emeka Egbuka, which have not just been against the Saints, we've kind of seen that creep up. They're dealing with injuries at the position as well. And then, of course, the injuries on the offensive line haven't helped them. The defense has been suspect, especially from a passing situation. And you guys know that symbiotic relationship between rush and coverage. Rush needs coverage, coverage needs rush. And while they have a really good defensive front, they lack in the secondary side. So it feels like maybe Carolina isn't necessarily a more complete team roster-wise, but might be the more cohesive team out of the pair as of right now. Obviously, still with some pitfalls of their own. You never know exactly which Bryce Young is going to show up. You're not super sure if you're ever really going to get a real pass rush from that team, 27.7% in terms of their pressure percentage right now. That's bottom in the NFL, which is great news for New Orleans next weekend, by the way. But it's hard to say that one is the best team, but I would say right now the better team in the division might just be Carolina. And to be fair, like both of these teams lost to New Orleans. This isn't a recency bias thing. It's just looking at where Carolina has been a little bit maybe more cohesive and dependable in a way that Tampa has been a little bit more unpredictable and therefore has had sort of those losing streaks here over the course of the season.